Tell us a little bit about the history of the program and the success in having an Olympic coach like yourself, a coach on a club level, and being very competitive and successful. Tell us a little bit about the history of the program and what you've seen from coming, starting with a padlock on almost a warehouse now to a brand new facility.
Well, if anyone would have said that when I came to Purdue that we would, have a new facility of, real prominent stature within the community, I said, "Wow, I'll work towards that, but I really don't think we'll ever get that." And it should be next April, and we should open that facility. So I'm glad no one, really came to me and said that's what we're going to do, because it probably wouldn't have happened that way. But the program started in 1949, and it started with basically 8 or 9 guys that were tapped by a professor here on campus that had a rowing background from England and wanted to do something with rowing here at Purdue. And I guess it actually started with a couple brothers who had some rowing experience from Cuba, I believe it was. And they were at Purdue, and they said, "Well, why don't we get something started?" So they made the first fledgling efforts at getting something started, and they found 8 or 9, 10 guys, and then they found somebody on campus that knew something about rowing who was, from England, and got him involved, and they got some boats, and the program really started from absolutely nothing. It started from somebody saying, "Well, why don't we do that?" And now I guess we're to the point of, why don't we do that just a lot better? So it really built through the 80s, and in the 90s it sort of took a turn where there was a lot more competitive spirit, a lot more interest from the kids on campus, even to the point where some of those people during the 60s actually competed and tried out for Olympic and national teams. Then during the 70s, there was a transition. There were some good years for the program, but it started to fluctuate a little bit, and I think the people that have been involved with the program up through the 60s were there for several years, and then through the 80s somebody was here for a couple of years, and then you switched, and so there really wasn't that stability that there had been in the program in the 50s and 60s. And I'm looking at that from where I sit now and going back and trying to piece together who the coaches were and put a history together, because we really don't have that. But it sort of seems like it flowed that way. Then into the late 70s, early 80s, it seemed to stabilize a lot more. And then finally the alums said, we just really need to get this solid. And they went to the president of the university and asked, "Hey, if we come up with the funds, can we have a full-time position, and we'll give you the money and you funnel it through, and we'll pay for that, every year." And the president didn't think they would come up with the money, and he said yes. And with less than 24 hours, the money was on his desk, so he was already committed to the position. And that's when the program really took some root to the ground and became very solid on a national scene. Then the program, again, even with that position, sort of floundered in late 80s through the early 90s. And then the position became available, and my life circumstances had me in a position where being in Indiana would be a good thing so I could be closer to my parents and my 2 sisters. And I like to take the move from Cornell and came to Purdue. And again, my whole goal was to have a happy boathouse and keep people, nose on the grindstone to the real basics about the program of work ethic and commitment. And the commitment is to what you're doing, but also the commitment to the people that you're working out with. Because more so in rowing than in other sports, you really have to trust that individual to always be on his game. Otherwise, the boat goes slow. It's an example is an 8-cylinder car. If you have one of those cylinders that's just not tuned and tapped and ready to go, the car's inefficient and goes slower. And over time, you go slower by an immense amount. So building, that trust, that work ethic, the responsibility to each other is all just key facets of the program. And I think with those, the athletic part of the program has come along way since, I started in 95. We probably had a total of 80 people in the program, and like I mentioned earlier, we traveled with 163 a couple weekends ago to a regatta in the Midwest.
What do you think makes a successful student athlete? Are there certain traits or skills that you look for your program and team?
It's people who really want to achieve. If you find an achiever and they want to achieve academically, they're not going to want to do that. They're going to want to do something else, because they're who they are is probably expands beyond just an academic arena, and they want a very challenging extracurricular activity, and some want an athletic extracurricular activity. Well, we can provide that for them, and then what you find is those people too also want a nice social life. So really what it works out to be is a person that is really motivated, that wants to achieve, but really has more going for them than just one little aspect of their life. And to be able to do those three things and to have them marry together so that you're able to do all of them well and feel fulfillment from that, you're looking at somebody that manages time really, really well. In addition to our athletes, doing the studies and the athletic thing, and have a social life, and part of that social life is naturally the girl-boyfriend situation, but it's also figuring out how to fit that civic piece in. And when you find students that are looking to balance and manage all of those things, even though they may not know that they're doing that, it's really pretty special, and you're building some people that are going to graduate from Purdue with a much more enhanced education than what you might find with just a student coming to Purdue to do the athletics.
Right. What do you see the future of the program? What are your long-term goals?
Well, I think we've done a lot in 15 years. I think it's always easy. I think it's easier. I shouldn't say it's always easier. I think it's easier to come into a program that needs some help to grab it and move it in a direction. I think after you get it moving and you get it to a certain level, then certainly sustaining that level becomes more difficult. Expectations are higher, but along with that, you're building some traditions that the expectations are there. So if you stand to the plate, then you know exactly what's expected, where you're supposed to perform, and how you're supposed to perform. So I guess long term, I would look at maintaining the program at the level it's at, which is a pretty high level. Maintaining the opportunity for the same number of students to be involved and have the experience. With the new facility, we're going from a facility that's 2,800 square feet to 22,000. I mean, that's huge, and that'll give us the ability to grow a little bit, but it won't give us the room to grow, beyond bounds. In fact, we're storing enough equipment outside that we'll probably just fill the building now with the equipment we have. So I would think, sustaining maybe slight growth in the program, maintaining the visibility with the university, the community, just really becoming more and more solid within the arena where the kids play.